This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
And welcome to the latest and freshest edition of Tiger Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner in fun. That is Doc from Doc and Jack, John Charles Macaroon. John, how are you doing?
Vito, I want to thank the sponsors of this fine podcast. They make it so that we are able to broadcast. Want to thank the Detroit Sports Commission. Want to thank DC Sports over there at Lakeside Mall. Oh, man. Lots to talk about this week, huh? What's on the agenda?
We have to. Well, first and foremost, how about Miguel Cabrera's comments? Now, we don't know if these comments were received by the writer/reporter that reported them as being off the record. Maybe these comments were. Now, there's been nothing specified, or at least that we know of and that has been told to us regarding whether or not these comments made by Miguel Cabrera in a BP session on Saturday were on or off the record. But he ended up trashing his teammates and saying those are players and reasons why he has not slugged as much as he has in the past, specifically for extra base power. He hasn't hit the home run ball at the premium rate that he has in the past, that we have grown accustomed to with Miguel Cabrera. Obviously, he didn't last year. He hit for average last year, only played in 38 games. 2 seasons ago, had a rough season, a very down campaign for Miguel Cabrera in a Tigers uniform. His worst season yet was 2 years ago in a Tigers uniform. Then last year, once again, only played in 38 games. I think hit 3 home runs, 22 ribbies. This year, 1 home run? I mean, has his power been zapped? But then also, once again, going back to these comments, Doc, which you have heard about, we've talked to other members of the media about these comments made by Miguel as well, and whether or not the comments received by the writer, whether or not it was ethical in which the writer for this entity received these comments from Miguel Cabrera, and then whether or not, and this might even be the bigger topic, at least for this podcast, Doc, whether or not Miguel Cabrera should have slammed his teammates for his lack of power so far this season.
See, that's the part that I wrestle with is how much should people care regarding the comments that Miguel made? Because here's the way I look at it is, the way that people perceive it is when they hear the comments, they interpret it and they take it as, well, Miguel is trashing the lineup because he, in essence, what he said was when he was questioned regarding his lack of power, he's like, look, I'm being pitched differently. So in essence, what he's saying is it's not me. It's the fact that if you guys know baseball in the manner in which he expressed it, if you know baseball, I'm getting pitched differently. I'm not getting as many quality pitches to look at as opposed to maybe 5 years ago when I'm being protected when there's a Prince Fielder, Johnny Peralta, Victor Martinez. It's totally different in terms of how pitchers are willing to attack me. And now people are going and looking at, well, there are still several pitches that Miguel is whiffing on and not connecting with in terms of, swinging and missing, swing rates and things like that in terms of, when he's seeing a nice 93-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle, he's not connecting as well. And so the way I look at it is he's kind of defending himself, saying, look, it's not that I've lost talent. It's not that I've aged. It's not that I've aged out and I don't have any skill anymore. It's that, look, this lineup, which everybody knows to be true, is a younger lineup. And when you have a lineup of younger cats, then opposing pitchers are going to not give me as many quality pitches. So inevitably, my numbers are going to be down. And that's how I think he intended it to be. I don't think a guy like Miguel Cabrera is intending to harm his teammates. I think he's trying to defend himself. So in that sense, I think he's being honest. He's being real. That's what we want from our athletes. I just think that when people criticize Miguel Cabrera for his comments, I don't think they should criticize him for those comments because I think he's being real.
I'll say this, though. I think a real clubhouse and team leader does not criticize and slam his teammates as he did. And those comments offered to that media member, and whether or not it was on or off the record, I still think a real team leader doesn't slam his teammates for his lack of power and his weaknesses at the plate that have emerged even more this season when it comes to hitting for extra base power and for home runs specifically. And we know the Tigers have a weaker lineup. Okay, there's no doubt about that. There's no Victor Martinez is rolling in there. Victor Martinez in his prime, let's say, or Prince Fielder in his prime. He had much more protection back then. So Cabrera got some better pitches. But like you said, Doc, yourself, and you've heard from other fans and pundits alike, he's still whiffing at pitches that are right over the plate, are fastballs and that are thrown right over the plate that he could be and would be hitting in the past for power, for extra base hits at least, and or for those balls that leave the ballpark. He is not making contact on those pitches now, pitches that he used to never whiff on or very rarely did. He is whiffing on those pitches thrown right over the middle of the plate now at a much higher rate than he ever used to be, and that's a sign of Miguel Cabrera's steady decline when it comes to hitting for power at least. And it's why you're going to see his whiff, as in strikeout rate, go up as this season progresses. You know, it's going to be high the rest of his career probably because he's not as great of an all-around hitter. But once again, I think this reverts back to a point I already kind of made, but also to the point that in years past, even when he was slugging at a premium rate, when he won his Triple Crown, when he won back-to-back Most Valuable Player of the Year awards, I don't think he was ever the greatest leader inside the clubhouse. He was just a great hitter. And he got away with things because of the fact that he was hitting at a premium rate and winning all of that hardware. Now that he has declined, he can't get away with a comment such as this or off the field drama and troubles. And that's why all of that stuff now is highlighted even more. And because of that, I think it paints a negative image for Miguel Cabrera and the leader that people thought he was for this Tigers team.
And sometimes you're forced to become a leader when the majority of the roster is young and they're inexperienced. I do think that he does take certain players under his wing and shows excitement, and you know he's there rallying the troops. He's excited. He's in it. Now, some people like yourself, some fans may also want to focus in on the lack of home runs, but remember, his batting average is right around, 300. He is driving in runs. He is, getting on base. Unfortunately, yeah, it is a lot of singles. And so the big question that people are asking is Miguel Cabrera's power going to come back? I would have to say, yeah, I think he's going to start hitting some home runs, and they could come in bunches. But as long as he's contributing, driving in runs, getting on base, then I think he's still doing his job, and I don't think that Miguel Cabrera, in essence, has been really hurting his team. Because do you think, honestly, Vito, that the Tigers would be that much better if Miguel Cabrera, let's say, has 6 home runs? I still feel like the team in and of itself right now is overachieving. As we record, they're sitting at 15 wins, 16 losses. They're in the mix. They're playing competitively. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat. And there's some games where obviously they don't play well. They make some mistakes. And, there are certain games in baseball where, hey, they call it, one of those days where you go out there and you just get destroyed. For whatever reason, your pitching staff just doesn't have the stuff, and another major league team comes in and destroys you, similar to what the Royals did in Game 2 of the series.
And I was there for that on Saturday. Tyson Ross got bombarded with hits and runs allowed and wasn't good. And none of the Tigers pitching on Saturday was good.
But the Tigers won the series. 2 out of 3 games.
So to take that as a win for the club, right, this past weekend against the Royals. You're right.
And I think that for the Tigers right now, first week of May, being 15-16, it's not all that bad. It's not all doom and gloom. And I think people are kind of looking at Miguel Cabrera because of his salary, because of where he's at, and they expect superstars to do superstar things. But at the same time, I think it's our job to say, it's time to change your expectations. Miguel Cabrera, if he doesn't come back, doesn't mean that, if he doesn't contribute with massive home runs and doesn't have 30 home runs, that he's a bust. I think that Miguel Cabrera still can contribute to this Tiger team and let them, and especially too, can you blame Miguel Cabrera? in essence, it'd be like you coming in here podcasting and realizing, well, no matter what, we're going to be the 8th place podcast in the state. It's, I'll make a little bit of money, but it won't be anywhere near the top or won't be anywhere near accepted, where all the credentials you get are no. It's kind of like, why keep battling? In essence, you have to see some kind of success, and I don't blame Miguel Cabrera. He's only human. It would take really superhuman feats to come in, day out, be a gamer, and be that guy that's just going to be that leader, especially if it's not innate, But I do think that we also should look at what he does bring to the table, and I still think Miguel Cabrera, is he worth his contract? No. But is he somebody that you want to have around in a rebuild at this point in time? I would say, yeah. I think he can teach a lot of these hitters.
But if you could trade him They
Of
would
course.
have a long time ago because they are rebuilding. They're a stinko ball club, and guys like Miguel Cabrera probably don't want to be here. It looks like that more and more
Of
with his
course,
attitude and
of
mentality.
course.
He doesn't want to be inside that Tigers
But I don't
clubhouse
blame
on a
him for
game-to-game
that.
basis.
I don't blame him for that. I think it's normal. You had all this success, and you were an organization that was top of the league. You were spending. You had talent. There were a lot of great memories, great pictures that rolled through here. And now it's totally different where they're basically saying for the next 3 years, you're not going to be anywhere near the postseason. It's just show up and play baseball for the love of the game. Of course, Miguel Cabrera, in all honesty, probably wants to go somewhere else, but he also recognizes it's not likely to happen based on the contract. So understand what his role is, and I think he is a leader, but in a different way.
I don't think so.
I disagree with you. I think he's a leader in that he shows these guys, hey, watch for this, watch for that. Hopefully he's taking Jeimer Candelario. Hopefully guys like Nick Castellanos and Brandon Dixon and Niko Goodrum watch the day-in, day-out approach of Miguel Cabrera, and they hone in on it and say, you know what, this is what we can do to gain an advantage. And I don't think he's just ignoring his teammates in the dugout, not giving them tips or not being one of those guys that says, hey, maybe watch out for this and giving them certain kind of inside information in terms of how he prepares and things like that. I don't think Miguel Cabrera is a bad guy. It's just a situation where right now his power numbers are down. He plays at Comerica Park. It's super tough right now. And I think it'll come around, and I think people will be less willing to criticize him as the season goes on. And especially if they stay around 500, they're overachieving.
I think complacency definitely has settled in with Miguel Cabrera, but you expect more from a guy that used to be a superstar. So we can lay it out here simply. He is no longer that caliber of a player that's going to compete for a Triple Crown, compete for an MVP award, or even be one of the best first basemen power and hitting-wise in the American League, even in just the American League. He's not that caliber of a hitter anymore. But you still expect more from him when it comes to his presence and mentality and leadership ability and skills inside the clubhouse. And I don't think he's ever had the innate ability to lead. I don't think he's ever been that guy. Even though when he's given a tip or two to some hitters and younger guys inside the clubhouse, such as Avisel Garcia in the past when maybe he's gone through some struggles, or maybe Jeimer when he has been this season, or Niko Goodrum. Guys like that, okay, Kristen Stewart. Sure, he's offered some tips too, but I don't think he has that innate ability. Never has, and just isn't the strongest or greatest all-around leader inside that Tigers clubhouse. And that's a detriment to the team when you're a younger, rebuilding team. And then Miguel Cabrera, once again, no longer is a superstar and not nearly worth all that money he's making on an annual basis, which is $30 million until 2023. So once again, I believe he would like out of here very bad, and the Tigers would like to get rid of him and would have already if he wasn't making all that money, which has become an albatross of a contract for the Tigers.
I want to turn our attention to Spencer Turnbull because many people now, when they tune into the Tigers and they see Turnbull pitching, they realize, okay, this guy's in his mid-20s, and he's got some stuff. This guy, I paid attention to him when he went to Boston and had that quality start. I thought it was a decent performance. And when you look at Spencer Turnbull late last year and now the handful of starts that he's put out this year, I'm impressed. I'm pretty happy with his performance. And I know many people are looking and evaluating and saying, you know what? They're mesmerized by Casey Mize. They're mesmerized by Faedo, Manning, Funkhauser. But at the same time, those guys are young. And you would expect it's going to take them a couple seasons to get acclimated, to understand, what it takes to be a major leaguer. And a guy like Spencer Turnbull, if he can stick around for a couple more years, maybe be that third or fourth starter in this mix, and then the Tigers are positioning themselves to really have a solid roster as well with some veterans that can actually perform. It's one thing to have a Jordan Zimmerman. It's another when you have Spencer Turnbull and he goes and takes the mound, and he actually produces, gets guys out, is a guy that can confuse a bunch of hitters and gets results. So that's a whole other thing. And I think that Spencer Turnbull, you asked, has he proven, is he the real deal? I think he's turning the corner and becoming a guy that you can rely on.
Well, you know what? The Tigers are starting to have a plethora of arms, it looks like, for the future. Spencer Turnbull has already been solid this season, and we must note his ERA stands at 2.31. His fielding independent pitching mark stands at, for me, an even more impressive 3.32 mark. Last season, it was 2.85. Now, that was only through 4 games and 3 starts. He's made 7 starts already on the season. So Turnbull, as a right-hander, right now is looking mightily impressive to me. He is 26, will turn 27 by the end of this campaign, Doc. And it looks like this guy might be around for the near and long-term future. For next season, for sure. And the thing is with the Tigers' arms, once again, it looks like they have a lot of young, sexy options for the future. Among Alex Faedo, Now Spencer Turnbull, even Matthew Boyd, Matt Manning, Bo Burrows, Casey Mize, maybe still Franklin Perez. Remember, Michael Fulmer out for all of this season and will miss some of next season, but what if he comes back? What if he does, John, and he comes back looking effective again, like the ace-caliber arm that he used to be? Remember, he won the Rookie of the Year in 2016. In 2017, he was emerging as a Cy Young caliber arm, or at least as a frontline arm for the Tigers pitching staff. Now, last season regressed and took a step back. This year out for the entirety of the campaign, undergoing Tommy John surgery. But if you get him back healthy, maybe even throwing harder and more effectively than he was a season ago, Doc, there's another arm to add to the mix that nobody's been talking about recently because he's on the shelf for the remainder of this season. So you have, once again, a plethora of arms, including Spencer Turnbull.
I'm impressed. When you go out there and you see what he can bring to the table, I think he features a plethora of pitches. I think that he's gaining confidence. And when you see a guy like that, it's nice to see. It's nice to see a fresh face. It's nice to see somebody go out there and give his team the best chance to win. And his performance on Sunday was quality, and he was able to eat up a bunch of innings, especially when the Tigers needed it. They needed on Sunday. Sometimes, unfortunately, you have games like Saturday where you use a bunch of pitchers and your bullpen is described as being depleted. And you just have to hope that your starting pitcher for that day goes out.
Long, and he did it.
Exactly.
I saw it. It's front and center for that.
So it's an interesting situation. I'm happy with where the Tigers are at, 15 and 16. I'm still involved. I'm still invested. They're playing a decent brand of baseball, but obviously we would like more. And eventually, I think what people are realizing is that, okay, when water finds this level, the Tigers likely are going to be under 500 and maybe significantly under 500. But who's to say they can't go on a run? Who's to say they can't hover around 500? I recall when I read they haven't been more than really 2 games under 500 the entire season. So that's something to be impressed by. But when you look at the Tigers, it's game by game. Look at what's going on. Look at the storylines that are taking place. And I've been impressed with the cats that are coming up and actually performing. Dixon did great in terms of making that great play in the outfield and then coming back, turning around in the bottom of the 10th and destroying the baseball. And that was sweet. It was nice to see a young cat come up, and we joked around and we were like, dude, wasn't this guy batting like 170 in the minors?
Something below the Mendoza line in AAA. Comes up, hits that walk-off home run on Sunday. Can he keep it up, though? That's the bigger question moving forward for a guy like Brandon Dixon.
All right, second half of the podcast, we're going to talk about Niko Goodrum, his struggles. The scouting report has been discovered in terms of how pitchers can attack him. It's quite evident in terms of the struggles that he's had as of late. You had an opportunity on Saturday when you covered the game to go around and meet Shea Norling. You were around the ballpark. The date was May 4th, and you were able to enjoy the contest. And also, to finish out the podcast, we'll talk about a return of a former Tiger manager and how should the fans react to this manager coming back, because online, it isn't pretty. All of that next as we roll along on this edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company.
That manager who you haven't named, Brad Ausmus, was never the best of the best. But when it comes to the best of the best authentic memorabilia and just authentic gear, you must go to DC Sports at Lakeside Mall, a fine sponsor of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network and of this very episode of Tigers Talk, and owned and operated by, you can say, the legendary De La Salle alum, Steve Grouse. DC Sports has been around now for over 20 years, featuring terrific autograph signing sessions as well in recent memory and coming up very soon here, including this upcoming Saturday when Mr. Tiger himself, Doc, Al Kaline, stops by Lakeside Mall at DC Sports for an autograph signing. I gotta believe the line is going to be super long for that one. Now, I can't make it, but we will be promoting that signing coming up on Saturday with Mr. Tiger, Al Kaline, at DC Sports at its fine location at Lakeside Mall. And for more about DC Sports and all of the authentic memorabilia it has, please go online to DetroitCitySports.com and follow DC Sports on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit. And now to our other fine sponsor of Tigers Talk, and that is the Detroit Sports Commission. And actually, I just talked to the fine and dandy Marty Dobeck earlier in the week, and we are working on some things between him and us here at the DSP Network moving forward. And the Detroit Sports Commission brings marquee events to the Metro Detroit area, including the 2019 Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic, which, by the way, taking place at Wayne State once again. And guess what, Doc? I'll be there working the event once again for the third or fourth straight summer, maybe the fifth straight summer at this point. Now, you can follow the Detroit Sports Commission on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports. And make sure to check out the Detroit Sports Commission's terrific website at detroitsports.org. And back here on Tiger Stock with Chirco and Company, I'm your host, Vito and Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner and fun, that is Doc from Doc and Jack, John Charles Macaroon. And John, you are looking good here in the studio and always bringing your A game. Lately, Niko Goodrum has not been, though, and I wanted to kind of make a little pun here. Spencer Turnbull has turned the corner, we can say. The rum has not been good lately for Niko Goodrum, who I don't think has been the same since I met him at that autograph signing at DC Sports. I think I have jinxed him officially. His batting average now is down to 224 on the season. His OPS is below last year's OPS of 747. It has dipped to 734. And just to sum it up, he is struggling mightily. And it's tough to see this guy, who I know is a good guy, struggling at the plate right now, Doc, game in and game out.
People have discovered that the upper 90s fastball up in the zone is a struggle for Niko to catch up with. And it was fascinating. Sunday's game. You can watch the game live in the press box, and then they have the TV where you can see just maybe 3 seconds behind the broadcast, and you can see where the pitch actually was located. And the KC Royal pitcher literally threw him in his first at-bat 3 upper 90s fastball, 93 to 94 miles an hour, the top of the strike zone. Literally the top portion of Niko's strike zone is exactly where he put it, and Niko swung and missed 3 straight times. So people are kind of recognizing that if you give him a little cheese, it might be a little bit difficult to catch up with. And when you look at it, man, hitting a fastball, if you're a major league player, you're supposed to hit that. But, man, it's tough. And we'll talk about that. My experience taking BP for the first time in a long time, it's super tough.
Yes, you did. It was tough to watch you swing and miss a lot. No, but then you did make some contact at the bitter end. And there's a video of that to prove on Twitter.
Yeah. And to look at it and properly evaluate it, maybe he was throwing 20 miles an hour, but it felt like the ball was getting on you. And imagine if it's coming 94 miles an hour, you have like 0.1 seconds. So this is not an easy task. And those that get on base 3 out of 10 times are legends. Just look at the struggles that Chris Davis had, a guy that was destroying the baseball in seasons past, and he struggled mightily for the past 2 seasons. It's not an easy thing. My nephew plays Little League, and we're looking
He's already
at
better
tape.
than you.
We're looking at tape. We're seeing, his stance is off, and some strikeouts have been elevated now in some travel games. A baseball swing literally is like a golf swing, and you have to tinker with it, and you have to really work at it. But we do have to kind of make a statement, and we have to kind of acknowledge the elephant in the room in that I think everybody realizes, you've said it, I've observed it now, Jacoby Jones isn't going to be developing a swing.
I said it a long time ago. It stinks.
I think
if you're not good, you're not good. You can work on your swing.
It's time
for your whole entire life, because a baseball swing, you were kind of getting at it, Doc. I would label it as a fine art.
It's
and you have to keep tweaking it, working at it, and
Jacoby
evaluating film.
Just doesn't have it.
It's not clicking because he can't hit. He can't make the necessary adjustments to become an efficient hitter at the major league level. He Ks way too often. Doesn't hit for enough power to make up for all the times he's striking out. And that's what the Tigers were investing in him for at the plate, because he brings a glove, great fielder in center field, can cover a ton of ground at spacious Comerica Park. But at the end of the day, can you put the ball into play? He can't. He's not hitting for power like the Tigers expected him to do so. He's shown that once in a while, a glimpse or two of it. But to consistently do it, Doc, and as you said it, half-heartedly, if you go 3 for 10 throughout your life, in the big leagues, you're a Hall of Famer almost. That's all it takes, but it's easier said than done. And Jacoby Jones cannot get to that, will never get to that. And you know what? My dad has said it. Other fans have screamed it forever and ever now to you and I, and via our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, that Jacoby Jones's days should be numbered, man.
They should be numbered. In a new segment, we'll call "See Ya, Wouldn't Want to Be Ya," Drew Verhagen. Finally, I mean, literally, did you see? The beauty of Twitter is you can go back and look, and when certain news stories happen, I tell myself, I know I've been critical of this guy 3-4 years ago. And so when a guy like Drew Verhagen gets destroyed and is just all over the place, is not contributing to the Tigers in any meaningful way. And I know that people love the arm. They love the 90-mile-an-hour fastball. They love his stature or whatever. But back in 2017, when he would go to the mound, I'd be like, oh, my God. And I feel that way about Buck Farmer, too. It's like the Tigers wait for that one appearance when he does well versus the Royals or the White Sox, and they're like, Buck Farmer has finally turned it around. I think we're at the Buck Farmer has finally turned it around phase 200 times. Buck Farmer, Drew Verhagen, those are just guys that you just realize that they're taking up space in the roster, and I don't feel like they're going to develop to what you need. So Drew Verhagen, finally they recognized that he just is all over the place, designated for assignment, similar to Mikey Matuk, no longer part of the active roster. See ya! Wouldn't want to be ya. So I'm glad they moved on from him. I hope that maybe he does turn it around, but I don't think it's going to work out here for the Tigers.
Maybe he decides to pursue another profession. Is that too harsh? Maybe it is. But, you view some of these guys, and they've been in Tigers unis for all this time now, Doc, and they haven't turned the corner. They haven't Spencer Turnbull the corner. They haven't. And you would have hoped they would have already by this point. Drew Verhagen's had how many chances at the big league level now? Jacoby Jones, same thing. Buck Farmer, who's looked good here and there. But in small sample sizes for all these individuals where they've looked solid at the major league level. Outside of these small sample sizes, Doc, they haven't looked credible and as valid hitters or pitchers at the Major League Baseball level. And that screams and speaks volumes about these guys and really what their value and worth is, and it's not very high. And that's what the Tigers have all the reason in the world to move on from these guys. And it's good to see they're finally moving on from Drew Verhagen. Jacoby Jones, his days are numbered. Got to move on from him eventually. And you got to hope, Doc, too, that there are better options in the farm system moving forward that can come in and replace these guys at the major league level. And you know what? Doesn't have to happen in 2019, but God, we better see this by the start of 2020.
So what was your experience like covering the game on Saturday? I know it was semi-decent weather. It was an opportunity for you to get out there. You had a struggle, though, unfortunately. You had a little challenge getting into the ballpark, but once you finally got approved and everything was smoothed out, when you yielded your power there and said, hey, hook me up, you took care of business, you got into the ballpark, you had yourself some fun. It didn't go smooth exactly as we would have liked here at the network, but I think what's fun is that you and I have come to expect a little bit of challenges. We've come to expect that each and every time we walk up into the media room that someone might be looking at us cross-eyed like, who the hell are you? What the hell are you doing here? And it's tough because people always say, act like you've been there before. But every time we go there, we're treated like we've never been there before. So
no, that's a good point. It's a really good way of putting it.
How can we act like we've been there before where every time we walk up, you have to have your heart race a little bit, being like, are they going to let me in? Are they going to just be like, who are you? Are you fraudulent? I'm like, no, my name's John. No, your name's not John. I'd be like, what?
Yeah, it's right here in my ID. Check it out. Do I look like the guy on the credential, too, that you have somewhere on your desk over there?
And Vito, here's the funny part, because I've decided that I don't care anymore. If there's something I want to text you, I'm just going to text you, good, bad, or indifferent. You know I'm pretty much fair. I give you credit when it's due. I criticize you when I feel like you need to be, and things like that. But I literally was going to message you and say, oh, I saw your credential right at the top. You're good. And I was like, oh, that's probably stupid. He's tired of hearing from me. I literally was going to type that while I was waiting, because when I went there on Friday, yours was at the top, okay? Because I stood there.
Better have been. Deserves to be at the top.
It was at the top, so I saw it. I saw your, profile there on the credential. So I was going to text you literally, Vito, you're good. They got you set up. I got mine set up Friday. It was all good, and my weekend was good covering the Tigers, but yours Saturday was not. So what happened?
Well, the start wasn't good. After getting into the ballpark, actually, into the press box, then it went smooth.
Yes.
But wasn't smooth sailing to start off. I'll just say this. Another individual and I had to wait about half an hour each, and he had to wait longer than me, actually. He was already inside waiting for his credential. And the credential was lying on the table there in that entrance when you enter.
Sight.
In plain sight. Actually, not in plain sight. That'd be too harsh because it's not true. It's not accurate. It was underneath something. The lady could have looked a little bit better, picked up the notebook or book that was on top of the two credentials, and then if she would have looked then, by doing that, she would have found the credentials, and we would not have been waiting all that time.
So what are you thinking as you're standing there, and they're like, we don't have it?
I'm thinking I got the credentials emailed to me, like the verification, as you and I always get each and every single game or series. We get these credentials approved. We have been all throughout this season, last season, and we get the email saying, hey, this is for these games, and then you get a parking pass eventually, which I email for. So Michelle knows we're coming, and she has credentials there for me. So it's not on her, it's on the lady at the front desk, who I know others have had a hard time dealing with as well, because these people aren't like these trained professionals to deal with this. But at the end of the day, when I say that, really, what is there to deal with that's so hard or complicated?
So what are you
shouldn't
doing?
be complicated.
Are you standing there waiting? What are you doing in the 20 minutes?
I'm standing there. Then I called up Michelle.
You called
to
her.
get in touch with her. I got in touch with her. Then I found out like 10 minutes later, oh, Michelle, I didn't even need to call you. So I look foolish now because I called you up. And it was about something where it could have been resolved a half an hour ago because the credentials were still there.
Did she answer
all
you
that
and
time.
say, I'll look into it? Or
She was going to look into it. She was going to get it resolved. And she had another credential coming down for me.
Oh, nice.
I didn't need that. So she was more than nice enough in accommodating on my request and the troublesome situation that I put her in, and that this other guy was in as well at the same time, and he had to wait longer. He had to wait longer than me, too.
Okay, I think that helps when there's multiple people.
Yeah, at least it wasn't just me. Made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, two of us there. This other guy was from WWJ or WJR, I think WWJ Radio, which you know about, and he hadn't been there in a while, but his credential was there. It's just the woman didn't pick up the book that was on top of these credentials and look. Because, God, if you would have looked in depth, done your job, you would have found those credentials a lot sooner than she did.
Well, Vito, welcome to the club, because I text you all the time. I'm like, look what happened to me. This is what happened. You're like, ha, da, and we joke around about it. But it happened to you, and you were like, dude, seriously?
I couldn't believe it was happening. I was like, really?
Well,
this really happened to me.
Vito, come to expect it. Really.
I know.
Expect
the abnormal. Really, every single time you go to these Tigers games now, expect the unforeseen to happen, right?
I expect fully one time we're going to go up there and get our badge approved and stand, and they're going to be like, no.
And just get kicked out. Booted out.
Yeah, exactly. Just walk right out. Just going to have Simo walk right up to us and be like, you're not welcome here anymore, buddy.
Escort us out.
Exactly.
Escort us
out. We're going to have to go this way, buddy.
Yeah, I'll take you out this way, buddy. You'll never be seen from or heard from again.
Yeah.
But it was crazy, the process, man, just to get into the ballpark. Yeah. Once I was in there, it was smooth sailing.
Good.
I toured the ballpark,
Good.
checked out different sites, took some photos, and met the great and legendary Shea Norling of Wanna Bet and the Monday Mashup. Nice guy to talk with, and his dad was there. I didn't tell you that. I talked to his dad about some Tigers history and his Tigers season tickets that he's had, and he had a bigger package, like a full season package of season tickets at one point. Does it now, has a partial package of season tickets for him and his son, or at least 2 tickets, and I think Shea goes quite often, and they chose this Saturday. They already had tickets there and went on Saturday. Good weather for the most part. Then it did cool off because the sun went away, and then the Tigers got smashed. Got shellacked, as I put it on Facebook and on Instagram. Just a bad day, man, from Tigers pitching. But overall-wise for me, outside of the start to the day into the game for me, Doc, really, it was a B-plus level. I would say a B-plus level day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it was fun, too, in that you provided additional content, which is all that we're looking for, is that anyone can really just report scores.
Tweet out
stats.
stuff. We can do it from the bar like you had said.
And so I think you provided additional coverage, and that was fair. Yeah, I thought the weekend was fair. The Tigers are playing a decent brand of baseball. But this week, an old face returns. Brad Ausmus back at Comerica Park. Many people on Twitter, at least, online, and from what I've seen, are kind of excited to kind of go down there and let Brad Ausmus have it because of the fact that they just, for whatever reason, didn't connect to the former Tiger manager.
Brad Ausmus returns. It's the Brad Ausmus Return Series at Comerica Park for 3, that is, with his now LA Angels of Anaheim.
Winners of 4 or 6 games.
So they've done well of late. We got to give them that much credit. But overall-wise, they're not the greatest team. Now, they come into Comerica on that, 4 of 6 for themselves, 3-0 with better play, let's say. But these Angels, I don't fear that much outside of Mike Trout, really. And their pitching staff is pretty cruddy, has been for a while. Their bullpen's not that great. Albert Pujols has hit for home runs, but he's not the same Albert Pujols of old. And it's been a while since he was really the real Albert Pujols that was once the machine and the greatest hitter of his generation. Before Miguel Cabrera, it was Albert Pujols. Angels aren't that fearsome bunch, though, of players. Now, back to Brad Ausmus, really the biggest topic here regarding this series, though. And I think he gets ridiculed. I think he gets called out and heckled. And I'm looking forward to that aspect of things. And when you're there at the ballpark Tuesday night, if it doesn't get rained out, all this rain that's been happening this week, if you're there for a game and you see before the game he's getting just heckled, I would love to see a video of that, man. Like almost you just going into the stands to get some of that recorded because you know it's going to be happening from the Tigers faithful on Tuesday night. And guess what? Throughout the duration of the 3-game set with the Halos.
Yeah, I think that, part of the reason that people are angry is that the Tigers failed to deliver. And unfortunately, Dave Dombrowski, hired Brad Ausmus to take a team that was really loaded, a young team. But remember, he also did the same thing with Alex Cora, with the Red Sox, and it worked.
They were just more loaded, is how I put it.
Yeah.
And they have more luck. You have to have luck on your side. You can be good, but at the end of the day, you need luck on your side as well.
And it'll be interesting to see how the Tigers fans, how the Tigers faithful respond to Brad Ausmus.
I think we know how.
Yeah, it's going to be a
let
bunch
me
of
ask you this.
boo birds.
How many people are cheering? Let's say how many people even go to the games anymore? 2,500 people go to the game, okay, Tuesday night. How many of those 2,500 people are actually cheering for Brad Ausmus?
One.
Yeah, under 10.5. Yeah, it's going to be less than 10, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe one guy, and it better not be you. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'd be like, Brad,
Oh, I
you're
love
so
you, Brad.
great.
Oh, you're the greatest manager in Tigers history. Can I get an interview or at least get your autograph, Big Brad?
Oh.
You sexy stallion.
Speaking of getting additional content, it was great to see Kirk Cousins. I finally made up for the fact that I missed Mark D'Antonio. Another Spartan came, and it was sweet on Friday. It was unexpected. I was not aware that Kirk Cousins was in town. I seen that he was about to throw out the first pitch. I gained the information, and I went down there and saw him do it. I put a video on the website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Got a chance to briefly interact with him, and that was cool. Regular guy, like I said, quarterback. A lot of the fans, our faithful, were joking around and talking about the fact that he was going to throw an interception.
I was going to say, did he throw any picks?
Did he throw any picks? That's what everyone said.
Yep.
And they joked around. So I enjoyed that mightily. And finally, to end the podcast, Doc's Peachy Positive note of the week. You and I covered the USPBL Media Day. And the way I was thinking about it this morning prior to recording was, you and I went into it, thinking, let's do the job. Let's get the interviews. Let's do the professional nature in terms of promoting the USPBL, getting the information, talking to the people that we should talk about. And that's good. We do that. But for me, the more fun that I have is just you and I bantering. And I look through the videos and I'm like, man, you and I just banter back and forth. We joke around. We, tell some kind of crude jokes back and forth. We do the content. And I think we always got to note that down, is that we got to be us. We got to be Detroit Sports Podcast, meaning that we will do the job. We will act professionally, act accordingly, but also have some fun with it. Be ourselves. Do those videos. And I think when we have that in mind, it just comes out naturally. Like, we didn't have that planned, you holding the bat, us taking all those photos. But eventually, when you're waiting around, guys like me, just our minds start going creatively. Like, what can I do here? And you did a video talking about wanting to be the Tigers' next batting coach. I'm holding the bat.
Well, I think you labeled me as wanting to be the next Tigers batting coach.
We had fun with it.
I would offer tips.
Yeah, exactly.
I would. Hey, somebody wanted
it was fun.
advice. I got a lot of advice to give out.
Exactly. You and I clowning around, people at the network having a good time, makes it really fun. And then the best part was, I felt like, all right, I'm going to do this. We knew around 1 o'clock that there was going to be batting practice thrown to the media. And you're like, oh, sorry, Doc. I know there's going to be a little extra time, but I had to I have to leave right at 1 o'clock. That's my deadline. And I was like, okay, maybe there's a chance I'll go first and you'll just get a couple, because I really wanted it. I was like, okay, there's a chance. I knew I could hit the ball. I mean, I'm not like unathletic, but it worked out perfectly in that they started early. About 12:45, members of the media started talking, and then I'm like, oh, great, because you then engaged in this super long conversation.
With Mark Wiedemeyer of the Westside Woolly Mammoths.
A longtime scout.
Manager now.
Really great insights.
Yep.
Talked about some of his former stops with the New York Yankees.
The Nationals,
it was
too,
awesome.
At one point.
Yeah, awesome to get some insights and to develop more relationships and more contacts with those at the USPBL. Chris Newell, great. Scott McDonald over there. They do a great job. Treat us with respect. We had a good time with it. So I look forward to it. I was like, okay, I'm geeked. I grabbed the bat a little bit early, started getting ready, and then it was my turn. I went after a media member, and I kind of got into a little bit of rhythm. The first couple of swings kind of didn't leave the cage, a little bit awkward. But then I kind of recalled some muscle memory of batting. I adjusted my stance a little bit, and then I went into Hulk smash golf swing mode, and you caught the best sound. You caught the content. And I'm like, holy cow. I laid into one. Man, that was a good feeling. Like when the bat hits when the fat part of the bat hits the ball and you hear that crack. And then the best part was not all that. Chris Newell, the coach of the 2-time defending champ, the Beavers, he was like, yeah, he was excited to see it because I destroyed that baseball and I hit it hard. And I was like, yeah. And I got into a rhythm, 2-3 quality swings of the 15 that I took. But I will admit too, one ball went straight down and cracked me right in the nuts. And I was like, oh,
really?
Yeah, it went straight down and bounced back up into my nuts. And I'm like, oh, shit. That's not
Didn't wear a cup. Should have worn a cup, John.
Vito,
come on, man.
Vito, I toughed it out. I shook it off in my brain.
Well, you're
no
a tough
pain.
dude.
Yeah,
Look at you.
No
you
pain, no
toughed
gain.
it out.
But to end the podcast, peachy positive note of the week, I still got it. Got a lot of views. People were enjoying the content. And I like it that I showed that, hey, I am a shit talker, but I can back it up just a little bit, and that's
yeah,
good.
I mean, once every 40 swings, yeah, you can back it up.
It was
Twice
good.
every 40 swings, but I
3.
got it on video.
You got
made
it.
you look good.
Yep.
It made you look like you knew what you were doing with that baseball bat.
Edit
So
out,
good for you.
Edit out the bad swings.
Edit out everything bad, baby. That's the beauty of editing, right?
Exactly, but when you heard it, you heard the crack. You were like, "Holy cow!"
It
he
sounded
just
good. It went forward. I kept following. I was like, "Is this going to go over the fence there in
was
left
good.
field?" It was a good hit, good contact. Chris Newell is throwing BP. I got a segment with him as well. Will have come out this week too in promotion of the start of the USPBL season and the 4th season for the United Shore Professional Baseball League in Utica at Jimmy John's Field. Lovely ballpark and venue for a family as well. We went there, had sweet tickets last year in the Cabana Suite. We'll have sweet tickets again in the Cabana Suite. And really quick, wanted to say this regarding your BP session. You know, I'll give you a little bit of props for what I saw near the end of that BP session. Now, when you finally connected, really connected as you were talking about, did it get you going a little bit?
Oh, I was
Did
riled
you
up.
feel
Yeah.
like, man, wow,
Yeah.
I just did something in grand style, and I'm revved up now.
What made it better was I made an adjustment. I was crowding the plate a little bit.
You backed off a little bit?
I moved back a little bit, and I kind of reset the bat to kind of set where I thought the fat part of the bat should go. So I moved back away from the plate just a little bit, and I reset, and I kind of used muscle memory. I think I had a decent stance, good balance. Maybe I could stay with the ball a little bit more, keep my head down. But overall, I kind of know how to swing the bat. I mean, it's been a long time.
Well, since you were 9 years old, you said. So 31 years ago now?
It's been a long time since I swung
It's been
the
a
bat
really long time, 3 decades.
in batting practice. But overall, I had a great time. It was nice to see, and it was nice to at least lay into one and get one into the outfield in the air. Baby, it was awesome. I liked it.
So wait now. I was going to say this. You didn't choke up on the big black bat like I did, though, did you?
Nope. You bunted.
I wanted to choke up on that bad boy, and that's what I would have done if I had some BP swings there.
Yeah.
Didn't get the chance to. Was deep in conversation. Then with Scott McDonald. So I had to talk to him, and we've got hopefully a big agreement, right?
Yep.
Coming up, really being renewed at the USPBL for the next 2 seasons. And that would be great for us here at the DSP Network. And we will be featuring interviews throughout the season with coaches and players, maybe another one with Andy Appleby as well, as we did last season, as a special segment on these DSP Network airwaves.
Yeah, a great partnership with those in town is always great, and we love working with the fellas there at the USPBL. Follow them on Twitter at USPBL and go to their website for all information, tickets, and to find out how to go to Jimmy John's Field, a great ballpark for families and a great ballpark for quality minor league baseball. And definitely check out the young cats working out there and doing their thing in the hopes of meeting their dreams. All right, Vito, great podcast. Look forward to next week. I hope the Tigers do well this week. Keep winning. Hey, when you're playing at home, you gotta handle your business, right?
Got to win at home. If you don't, you fall even further below 500. But so far, really, Doc, honestly, so far so good for the Tigers. Really could not have expected more from them up to this point in the campaign. Will they tail off? Probably. But you know what's kept them in the swing of things for the most part throughout this season, Doc? And it's an obvious point. It's been their pitching staff, their starting rotation, and guys like Spencer Turnbull who have Turnbulled the corner. And with that, Doc, great stuff from you. And I'll talk to you again next week for another fine edition of Tigers Talk. Adios.